Get Valiant.
Number 171. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing great on the big 171.
It is the big 171. You're getting up there in age and doing great with it.
Yeah. How you doing tonight? John, are you there? Did it just get left, John?
I am here now. Can you see me, hear me now?
Yeah, I was asking how you're doing. All of a sudden, it just went to me, and I was like, I don't have anything to say it for the entire episode. What the hell?
I am blaming, I guess, that person, Livewire. Okay, it's her fault. Eric. Yeah, Eric's in the Ethernet somewhere, maybe. But yeah, rocking and rolling, man. Missed you last week where we talked a little bit. I don't even remember what we talked about last week, but we talked about something last week, and it was really great.
It was the fully loaded issue, wasn't it?
That's right. We talked about Bloodshot Fully Loaded and reviewed that. So,
yeah. Yep, wish I could have been here.
Always missed. And, yeah, lots of new things within the news. I mean, don't have the breaking news, but it looks like Harbinger has been talked about that it's going to be coming. That it's in post-production or pre-production. So,
yeah, that's great. I guess we'll see what another studio can do with a Valiant property. Although, I mean, I was happy with Bloodshot, and I thought that the people involved with that did a great job. But we'll see what Sony wants to do. Or not Sony, it's Paramount, right? With Harbinger.
Yeah, Paramount's got this one.
I guess we'll see. I mean, you don't have to have a shared universe, but it would have been nice. But maybe Valiant can break their ground by doing something different, by just trying to focus on an individual property and not trying to piece together a bunch of characters and a bunch of different storylines. And that's okay. We don't have to be Marvel. It's great that Marvel Studios has the opportunity to take like 20 movies and make it into one gigantic story in a universe. But, honestly, for me, I'll be just happy with a couple of good movies. They don't have to tie in.
Yeah. But it's kind of like DC movies to the most part. Like, they're probably best separate than they are joint. So, they haven't done too well doing this shared universe on their end, but hoping that changes up. So,
yeah, and I do wish. I mean, this is a little bit off the Valiant, but like I always wish DC would just be like, we don't want to be like Marvel. We don't need to do all these movies that are going to tie in, 10 movies down the line. I think that they've done great with these movies like Aquaman and Shazam, where they're kind of their own thing.
Right.
And I don't really I didn't like Justice League at all. I don't care about Man of Steel. Batman v Superman is okay at best. They just seem clunky. But I thought like Aquaman and Shazam, those movies, they're not trying to be part of some gigantic thing. They don't form the Justice League or anything like that. And they were fun. Those were just fun movies.
They were super fun. And then against popular opinion, our guilty pleasure, Suicide Squad, to me was actually pretty interesting, just because it was a big group of characters. And, I know that they're working on a number 2 with Gunn doing the same director of Guardians of the Galaxy. And I'm hoping that comes out to be something pretty decent. But we'll see what happens there. But Harbinger coming out, I assume they're still using the script by Eric Hooser, who wrote Bloodshot. He's done a lot. And I feel like this probably would fit more to his realm, just by seeing what he did with Secret Weapons. I feel like this is going to be a good spot for him to jump in. So,
I agree with that. And it's too bad we don't get to see those characters. Or maybe we do. Who knows? But I doubt it. I'm sure it's just going to be a very basic Harbinger story, basically like the origin, like first, what the first couple arcs probably bring up. But I do think that there's so much potential there, especially right now where there's not an X-Men movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's just those old X-Men movies. Right. And if they were to do the timing right on this, they could make this so so it doesn't come off like a X-Men ripoff or an X-Men clone, if you will, because psiots, people being born with these abilities or having them unlocked, it's a little similar to mutants. But if they could make it so that they can make this material a little bit darker, because like especially Josh Dysart's material is very dark.
Right.
It's not necessarily like mature reader, but it's not for like kids, you know. So I think like they could differentiate in a lot of different ways. So I guess we'll see. It's always hard to talk about this stuff when we don't have anything to really go off of other than it's pre-production. They're going to move forward, but it's exciting. I just hope this isn't like how Bloodshot was, where, and this is, you know, to go back to time before you came on. Eric and I used to talk like every week about Bloodshot, and we're like, "Oh, it's going to be in pre-production. We can't wait." And then like the next week, we're like, "Oh man, it's going to be in pre-production. What are they going to do? What do you think they could do?" And it's like, shit, man. Like looking back on it, we were just so excited that like they're going to finally do a Valiant movie, like anything that.
It's so true.
I mean, we didn't have anything to talk about with it, but we always talked about it. So hopefully for the people who listen, it's a little bit easier going forward with like a second movie.
Well, you think about it. We've known each other, 3 or 4 years now. And
yeah,
we met at a panel and it was mentioned the Bloodshot movie back then. So, and it's just happened, 4 months ago, we finally got something. And so it is kind of funny to see that and kind of come back to it, where we're going to be with this. I know there was some staffing pieces, before Bloodshot even came out, where they had, talked about Beanie Fedelstein possibly being Faith. There was the kid from Maze Runner, I believe, that they talked about being the character here for Pete Stanchek. So, I mean, there's been quite a bit of talk of characters in the past of actors that have been rumored. And, we'll have to wait and see. Still early, and I kind of don't want to play that same game we did with Bloodshot, because I felt like it led for disappointment to a degree, because you're so anticipating, you're so much waiting for it, you're wanting it.
Yeah. It can never match up to like what your expectations are, even if you're like, I hope it's just okay. I mean, you talk about it for 3 to 4 years, and it's just like it could have been better, but it was still good.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I did like it. I thought it was really good, but
yeah.
All right. And then did you get a chance to get to that interview with Matthew Klein at Comic Watch?
Yeah, I did not get a chance to read it.
All right. I do see that one thing that was in there.
I'm looking forward to looking at it.
None of the I did get that none of the previous books announced have been canceled. So
that's good.
They will be releasing those and continuing with that. The one that kind of makes me question that it hasn't been thrown out just because it was one issue away was The Visitor. Why that one kind of has been one of those. I felt like just throwing that one out there. I don't think it had big sales to start with. And so I felt like that one probably should have been wrapped up pretty quick. Just like they did Quantum and Woody. I was hoping that one would be done. That way we could kind of, because the story's already seeming forgotten because we didn't see that since March. So.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. It's hard with a miniseries if you're going to take a big break from it. And I feel like Valiant's really hard anyway when they don't have huge sales, and then say a series wraps up and you're like, okay, when are we going to see these characters again? Now we're in that situation with a miniseries where it's like, we haven't seen the contents of The Visitor for like February, I think.
Yeah.
So now we're on August. There's no notifications as to when that series is going to pick back up again. So that's hard. That's really hard. And I wish they would just kind of get it out, whether it's a one issue just to finish the whole thing off, or I don't know if it's one issue or 2 issues, but it would be great just to kind of get it done, just so we can. I want to know what's going to happen. How does this tie into the big Valiant universe overall?
Yeah.
Just a lot of speculation we've had a lot of speculation, like how we feel like it's going to. Mm-hmm. I just want to know.
Yeah, exactly. I want it to close out. It's one of those ones that you want to see it closed out. You believe it's going to have some good continuity points to it when it is wrapped up, or you would like to believe it to be, because the last one really did too, the original Visitor. And so you would like to see that happen and come around. I think that's one of the pieces there. And then you just look at new books that are possibly coming out. And one that I saw some interior pages was Jeremy Hahn's The Final Witness images that looked pretty darn good. He's a great artist.
Oh, I agree. I have the ash can somewhere, but I've never read it. I always thought like I would just read it once we got the have a green light to do it. Once we get the PDFs from Valiant, we would talk about it. But that's another book where we just don't know when it's exactly coming out. But I did glimpse at some of the pages. They look great in black and white. And then tonight, I finally got a chance to see I looked at the preview pages of the Becca Rye that are colored. Mm-hmm. It looks great.
Yeah.
So, and that's going to be another book where I feel like I'm really curious how it's going to tie into the Valiant universe. It does seem really different. It seems very serious, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. A book can take itself too serious. That's okay. But it looks cool, and I like Ray Fawkes' writing, so I feel like it should be a hit. It should be a good book because I feel like everything that he's written with Valiant's been pretty solid.
Yeah, I think some serious books work from time to time. And many of the books, like I would say, like one that's been successful that I feel can be good serious is Daredevil, and that's worked out really good. And that's kind of that lawyer detective in a way. And so I think we're going to get something to that degree here, which gets exciting. So, in the chat, Scott Bloom's hoping that Ken Wannabe still gets to be Toyo, and I completely agree. I know the rumor was originally Bloodshot in credit with Toyo, so hoping that Paramount picks it up, and I'm right there with you. He is Toyo already, in my opinion. Yeah, and then if there was any other news, kind of went over my head on some of this, so I'm not sure if you saw anything else or got anything else in there.
No, I got nothing. I haven't been on the internet too much this week.
The World Wide Webs, yeah, it's been kind of sparse for me as with too much work, too much things going on that end. So, I know that there was the talk about the headquarters is kind of moving. Valiant's still 100% rocking and rolling, so that's off. That's awesome to know. That's what we kind of figured, and we know that EXO's coming back, and that should be going too. So,
yeah, I'm a little bummed on the office is moving. I've been invited a few times over the years, to go. People are always like, if you're ever in New York, go to the offices. I'm like, oh, I want to so bad one day. One day I'm going to go to New York Comic Con again or something. Or not again. I haven't been to it, but I've been to all the other Repop shows. But I'm always like, oh, I'm going to try and go to it. And then it's like, no, I can't do it this year. Can't do it this year. Can't do it ever. And, it is what it is. Not a big deal. It's not like you go to those places and there's writers there or anything like that. It's just the staff. But those are the people that I talk to a lot now.
Yeah.
People like Greg and talk a little bit with Heather on Twitter, talk a little bit with Emily on places too, or on here. So it's I want to meet these people in person or re-meet them, I guess. I've met Heather in
Natural Habitat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And just to be there and see where, Valiant's pretty much been at for a while and run into some of these that are behind the scenes that you don't get to see all the time. I know I believe there's Travis who's in, part of not marketing, but he does things there. I forget what it is, licensings and just a number of things. So just the guys that are in the back of it. So, And then the statues. That is right. Thank you for reminding me on that, Greg. Those statues that are came out on Facebook of the reworked Bloodshot image, where he doesn't look like Hellboy mixed with.
I seem to remember everybody hating how those looked, and I do agree that Bloodshot just looked ridiculous.
Horrible.
I thought people were a little hard on the Ninjak one, though. It looked pretty good. They don't have to look exactly perfect. But I thought I saw something this week where the Bloodshot statue had a better head.
Right. Still a big old RPG thing, which, kind of cool, but...
Yeah,
that's okay. It was way better.
You could give Bloodshot 100 weapons all around him. I'd be okay with it, because I feel like no matter what, he would be the kind of guy who would just have a bunch of guns and shit lying around. He's going to go to work.
Absolutely. When it comes to that, that's something that looks so much better. I'm glad that they redid those. I know that they said they were going to not do the chibis. The chibis. They said, I think they said there was only 20 pre-orders.
Well, I think that, when you look at where we're at right now, where DC just laid off a ton of people and people are moving offices, and I mean, like, look, I feel like Valiant's done pretty well as far as like how a lot of the comic book companies have been, and it's bound to hit other merchandising avenues. So I think it's Silver Fox Collectibles, that's who's doing it. Is that correct? I'm sure it's hard to do statues, especially when like this stuff starts to hit, just because people don't have jobs, people aren't working. These things aren't requirements of enjoying your fandom. They're nice to have, but I mean, honestly, I've got like 3 statues, and it's hard to buy them. They're like the last things I buy. Hopefully these statues come out, though. They do look really cool, and they're way better than the Bloodshot giant figure that looks like Johnny Depp in white paint that came out, or like the gigantic Rice statue. Like that thing, it's cool. It's way too big. It's too expensive.
That thing's gorgeous, though, and I think sometimes you need some high ticket items here and there. You need to get it across the board, right? Because you are going to get some fans that are going to do that. But the other Bloodshot one was really cool. That was based off the
Quarantine Studios did the other one.
That one was cool.
Yeah, I have that one. I've been trying to talk Eric into buying one all the time because there's been times when I've seen them on eBay for cheap, and I'm like, Eric, come on, buy one now. But like he never has 2 pennies to rub together, so that doesn't happen.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what, though, like one last thing about the statue thing is I wish that I would rather those chibis have made it out than like the Bloodshot Ninja statues that they're working on now. Just because I think that high-end collectibles are great. They're totally great. I wish I had the money for them. But I also think if you have smaller statues like that, more people are going to buy that stuff. I'd have bought all of those because they were affordable. Yeah. And I guess that's just my way of bitching at me. I'm like, well, I don't have as much money as some people, so I want the cheaper items, you know. But whenever I've looked at statues, I actually look at busts a lot more, especially like older marble ones that were produced in the 90s. I like a lot of that stuff. But
the one bust I still have to get is I still have to get Shakespeare's head. I have to get Shakespeare's head and have it lean back and be a button to get to the back.
Yes, with the head, and there's the button.
Yep, got to get that. Well, this week was fun week because we got a good book that came out, and I'm excited for it. You excited for it?
I am.
That's it. Awesome. You were warned.
I knew ahead of time that would happen, yes.
Dude, ride number 6. Dan Abnett's back at it again. New arc opens up. Juan Jose Rip is still doing some amazing art, getting some touches of Britannia with these Legionnaires in there, and just some great anamorphic animals that are just it's a beautiful looking book.
Oh yeah. So like a quick rundown, we had all these different sectors that were a part of New Japan, and apparently one of them was a group of like positronic Roman legionnaires who were like entertainers, and they've landed on Earth just like a lot of people have, and their population is a mix of like positrons and humans from what I gathered, and they're kind of in like at a war with like the animal people. And then Rai shows up, and he doesn't really want to get involved from what I gather, but he gets talked into it, kind of guilted into it, but maybe not even guilt. We can go in that part a little bit, in a little bit of this discussion, but he goes to broker peace. It doesn't look like it's going to work out too peaceful for him.
Yeah, it's a cool element that happens. I mean, you were introduced to these Legionnaires marching down, and then they just get bombarded by these, like the anamorphic big old bear in the middle. And actually, that image was first shown here. So I just got to say that. That image was first shown here on Get Valiant, thanks to the connections at Valiant. Thank you guys. But that was awesome seeing that. And, Rai coming to save the day. And Dan talked about this in the interview that we had, is just the way Juan's doing these images of like the multiple Rais, making him look fast in that image. And it's working so well how he's doing that. And it doesn't look, it does, but it doesn't look like there's like 6 Rais at one time. But it's done in a way where you get the vibe, you really see that there's that motion within it of it happening fast. So I love that you can get that just in the image, and it's not blur lines everywhere.
Yeah, like it's so cool. Like those couple of pages where you see that, I want to go back to something you said when we first started talking about the issue, like that Britannia feel. I felt the same way. Once you get one Jose Rip, however it's pronounced, drawing figures from like the Roman era, like I was like, oh man, how cool would it be if there was like a robotic positron Antonius?
Yes.
Like that'd be so awesome,
Yes.
It would just be kind of funny because everybody talks about how that needs to tie in. And Britannia doesn't need to tie in ever. But that would have been funny if it tied in like that, where there's just like one little like robot.
Yeah, that would be super dang cool if it did. And it's, the stories of him, their reenactment, right? With that.
Yeah.
Would be really cool. But ultimately, Rise saves the day. That's awesome. And then it is interesting how the one that's got the more human side of him is Raijin. It's not Rai. Raijin's the one trying to get him to save it and broker peace within that. Basically, I don't know if you want to call them a tribe or that connection with these other ones, and it's just super. It's a great first issue to another arc.
Oh, I totally agree. And the leader of the Romans' name's like Techus or Ticus. I think it's Techus. It sounds that feels a little bit more natural, rolling off the tongue. And I was really kind of taken back a little bit by how cold Rai is. Like, Rai is so cold and just brutal to the point where he's like, I don't care about, like, brokering peace. All I care about is, like, taking out Father forever. So if these people need my help, oh, well, we should just go. And I kind of thought, like, you just don't see that kind of side in your main character in the book. You don't see him not trying to be the peacemaker for everyone, the one who's going to be the hero, the one who's going to be remembered. Rai's just like, I don't care. I got a job to do. That's all I care about. So yeah, like he's got some flaws. He's not perfect.
Yeah, I think it's good to see that because that's part of like the hero's journey is not necessarily wanting to take the journey into that realm. He's got specific, and that was kind of, programming, right? Because he is part, machine. And so there's that programming that he's still trying to get over. But it's the other side, like say the alternate side of Raijin, who's not, part human. He is what he is. And he's the one that's coming up with these ideas. He's the one that's showing these elements. And it plays a really cool role. But yeah, like you said, he's cold and he's focused on what the duty at hand is.
Yeah. It makes you kind of like Raijin a little bit more, I think, mm-hmm. Just because he is kind of like the voice of the reader in a sense. He's the one I think who says a lot of the things that you kind of expect the hero to say, like he's almost like the good guy.
Right.
Because he's like, no, Rai, we've got to do something. We can save like these Roman positrons. We can save the animal people. We can make everybody peaceful. Let's just work together. And Rai's just like, pfft. So it's really interesting stuff, One thing I thought was cool about this too is that we saw Spylock again and
yes.
Chief or Taka, the elephant guy, right. Who we saw him back in Fallen World.
Fallen World, yeah.
And too bad Eric is not here because I thought for sure he'd want to talk about something that we see in the second time we see her in the book. We get that weird little blip where we see the red dot, mm-hmm. and then it says Ray, like help Ray.
Right. A-R-A-Y for sure.
Yeah, and it's like, is that the Bloodshot nanites asking for help, or is that like a trick by Father? Because we really haven't seen Father too much in this. We've seen a little bit of his forces, but we haven't really seen him. And at some point, I feel like a Rai book is going to bring him into the fold. Mm-hmm. But I was really curious on that, where I was like, it's got to be a trick. It couldn't just be like the nanites going through their history and kind of looking for help, trying to overcome the new programming.
Yeah, it's a huge trip on that, and I like how it's all tying. It feels like it's all coming into tying together, back from Fallen World, and that's what makes this element great. Some of the pieces I want to talk after the book because it's outside of the book that we're currently reading, but I feel like it pertains to this conversation. Yeah, but the story continues to progress. The pacing is great. I'm very interested in all the things happening with it, and I think that's one of the things that make this book what it is, that make this story what it is, makes Dan Abnett, like, he's got great points of this book, you know, and it's a guy going after to save the world, but what good's the world to be saved if there's nobody left in it that's worth saving? And so I think that's where Raijin kind of really gets into this realm. And yeah, I hope that we get some Bloodshot connected into it, connecting back to take over, you know, his 4002 body that Father's taken over, and seeing where that leads up to. It's all coming together. And again, Dan Abnett's one to trust on it. I hope we're getting more of this to come for a long time. So
yeah, you know, and I just think, like, you can't, I mean, can you ever truly get rid of, like, the character of Father if you're going to have a Rai book? Because all we've really known with Rai, for all the issues that we've ever had of him, we haven't had too many of them with VEI, but he's always faced off against Father.
Right.
And it would be kind of interesting if it was a little bit more of, like, fallen, the earth, you know, New Japan has fallen to the earth. There's all these sectors, and you can help them and work on them too. And I guess I look at it like that because I'm always so curious as to how long these books will last. You know, I mean, I'm not blind to the sales. I always read this stuff for some, I don't know why I even care. But, like, I'm always like, how long can we get these books to stay around, you know? So, I mean, I just feel like I hope people read this book because, for one, it's really good. This is like, I think this is the best book that Valiant's doing right now.
Right. And
it doesn't matter who your editor-in-chief is or who's running the company. That's how good this book is. This book would be good if Dinesh was with the company.
Right.
This book is good now.
Right.
Like, this is good stuff, you know. So I hope people are reading this up. Yeah. Support this book, you know. So I just hope this book can stay around so that we can see some of the things that Dan Abnett would do.
Right.
Just because, like, when we got to talking with him, I just thought he came out so intelligent. Mm-hmm. And he seemed like he had a lot of passion for the character and for the Valiant universe as a whole, really. So I want to see him do a lot of stuff, you know, with Rai. And I've talked so many times about how much I like the 4001 storyline. Yeah. So just buy this book. Keep it going.
Exactly. Get out there and buy it. You know, Scott has said he's already got into this book and he's read it, so I appreciate that, Scott. It's one of those ones that's, you want to support this book to continue going. That's where you need to buy that trade. You need to buy the ongoing issues on it. When it comes to this, I want to see Dan on this book, and I want to see him on a current day type of book too. That way he could work in two different sand pits and just have fun and just go to work on it. But with that said, what do you score in this book?
Scoring it high, 4.5. I think it's a great issue. I mean, you know, like, it just didn't miss a beat. And I'm sure that this one was printed up a long time ago, so that it's just been sitting around. But you know what? We got it this week through all of this pandemic stuff. It was a great issue. The art looked awesome. Dan Abnett doesn't miss anything with this new storyline. I want to know what's going to happen with this Bloodshot thing that Spylock sees. I want to know how. The issue ends with what looks like a really big fight on Rai's hand. So, way excited for another issue. It's a bummer that we won't get one for another month, I assume.
Yeah.
But it was a great issue. Support this book if you're listening to us or you're watching, and if you're like, I don't know if I want to buy these books, buy Rai. Rai is great.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I consider giving it even higher, but 4.5 with this book as well. It's phenomenal. It's continuing to grow, and you're getting something out of each story. It's kind of been the way each issue's been, and it's continuing to base off of it. And you're just getting to another level of each story of this, like a video game, and just getting to each kind of big boss kind of thing. Yeah, all the way for it, 4.5. So, dig it. One of the things that I had a question that came out was leaked was images of Juan Jose Rip doing some bad idea issues.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I hope that we keep Juan on this book longer. I know that there's a bunch in the can, which is nice to know that, because we got images of the Anamorphic tribe months ago. You know what I mean? Months ago. I think Robert Myers sent us to it when we had Robert on the show, and that was February. And so it was so far ahead of it that I'm hoping that we got quite a bit in ahead. I know Dan had said that he's pretty far along as well. And so I'm hoping that we got a good 12 of this little creative team ready.
At least would be nice.
I'm
Well,
hoping
and one thing we don't really know with Bad Idea, which I think people should jump on that one too. Those books look like they're going to be a lot of fun. But we don't know anything about the story structure. So we don't know if we're dealing with one-shots, miniseries, ongoings. So, it's possible that while there's been this big lull in the publishing side for all the publishers, maybe Juan Jose Reap was just doing something there real quick, And he works pretty fast. Even though his art's super detailed, he seems like he works pretty quick. So, it would be great to see same writer, same artist just keep plowing along. But, realistically, like a guy has to kind of work where he can get work.
Right.
And I guess we'll just see, but I really hope that we just get a lot of him. He's one of my favorite artists. He's one of my favorite artists ever. And I really like that kind of style. Him and guys like
Jeff Darrow.
Jeff Darrow, exactly. Those are just like my favorite artists. And so I'm just like, keep that guy around. I like looking at the stuff he does. Just to look at is just fun.
Yeah. And they're so, we were talking about earlier, why you see motion, right? It's a still picture, but you're seeing motion, which says a lot about the guy's point of view, about how he's portraying the story, his images, his point of his angles that he's going with. It's just great, setting up pages. It's good. It moves your eye so well. I dig it. I like his facial expressions. He does just a good job of making the characters basically emote, and I'm for it. So I do hope we get more of him. And again, we talked about Dan. We want more Dan on multiple things. I want him to stick around for a while.
Yep, totally in agreement.
All right. Well, one thing is we have some stuff coming out in the near future, don't we?
I think so.
So we could take a look at something like that. That's going to be happening soon, in the future, one day. And then hopefully we'll have Eric back in a moment. But let's kind of see. It said it backwards. Oh, well. But coming next week, you saw it for a quick second, we are going to be talking Dr. Tomorrow, closing out. And we're going to have Alejandro Arbona here to talk with us about the adventures that was Dr. Tomorrow's first little mini arc, there's 5-issue introduction to Dr. Tomorrow.
Yeah, that was like the best part of my week, I think, was when Greg from Valiant was like, hey, you guys want to have Alejandro back on to talk the issue, because it comes out next week. We've loved it. We've all thought the issues have been great. And it just seems like overall, even the community is kind of rallied around this book too. So hopefully this will be another good discussion. And if you guys are listening to this or watching us, get your questions ready, because we can ask whatever we want. But if you have questions, it's a great chance to get what you have to say out there. Just, different points of view are great to hear.
Yeah, I think the first time we had him on was before issue number 1 even came out. And so we were talking in code because we got to read it already. So it's going to be nice to fully open up, talk about it completely, get spoilers. Remind you that Alejandro was once an editor at Valiant. So there's going to be lots of little calls to continuity within there that we're seeing, maybe not seeing. So be looking just for those little Easter eggs that are out there. And let's have a chat. Come with us. If you can't make it, get us on Facebook and connect with us there. That way we could ask those questions for you.
Yep, totally.
Yep. Facebook, Twitter, World Wide Webs. Comment down below if you're on YouTube. Mail. You can mail Josh.
Put a stamp on a postcard, mail it out. However you got to do it.
However, man.
Pigeon, carrier pigeon.
Smoke signals.
Morse code.
Yep.
Pony Express.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. I'm glad that we're getting multiple books, right? So this is, yes, Bloodshot was already re-released, but this was a brand new issue, brand new arc. We're getting close of a really good story coming out with Dr. Tomorrow. And so it's nice just to continue to be getting these comics. Getting a Valiant comic book, is great. I will honestly, I think I would go with the Valiant comic every week than like 2 a week or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that every once in a while there'll be dead weeks. I would rather have, like I said, I'd rather have one a week than an empty week at all. Or so.
Very true. And honestly, like I don't know how long it is until we can get back to normal with the publishing side, but I can't wait till it's weird how we used to be like, I wish we could just get like 7 or 8, 9 books, I'll be happy when we're back up to 6 at this point, It's weird how it all works. It's like, I'll be back. I'll be glad we're just back to 6.
Right. It is an interesting position. It's kind of like it's been weighed on us to here's what you got, and now the expectation's a little bit lower. Looks like September 9th, Ride Book 1, the trade comes out. So if you haven't read Ride number 6 and you're still here, I don't know what you were doing, but you should have been reading Ride the first arc. And then Bloodshot number 8, Ride number 7, and then Quantum and Woody's trade comes out. So we're getting in September, we're getting a Bloodshot and Rise. So we're getting 2 brand new books in September. And then that's kind of what we look at so far. October, through 2 books again, Bloodshot, Ride. November starts out with Exo Manowar. November 25th. What is it? Almost Thanksgiving. So, yep.
Man. And there's been so many books that were supposed to come out this year that we have not even seen. We didn't get Shadow Man, Final Witness. I mean, Final Witness came out as an Ashcan, but like that doesn't count. So I think a lot of it's just like, when are we going to get back to having all these books? But we'll slowly get there. But we'll get there.
Yep, that's right. We'll get there. I want to thank everybody for jumping on. We had Sean Hayes and Scott Bloom, Greg. Looked like we had more people in the chat that didn't join the chat. If you're on Facebook, I know there's something with StreamYard you have to do to get onto the chat here. But do that if you can. If not, join us on YouTube here and subscribe and ring that bell so you get to these live, and you can join these live if you're watching this afterwards, because in the chat's kind of fun to communicate back and forth with all y'all.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for showing up, and we'll be back next week with Alejandro. So come out and watch. We'll be blasting our Facebook and Twitter pages with all the info on that every day if we can. So we won't let you forget.
Yep. We'll put a link in. You probably should see a link tonight or tomorrow of that, and just go ahead and put the alerts on it and put it on your alert button, and get ready for that video. So.
All right. Well, on that note, this has been Get Valiant 171 signing off. There is no Eric Baumgard, but I am Josh Rathbun.
And I am Hooser.
So everybody stay valiant.
Stay valiant.
Or else.